To you. 1, 2, 4.
Forrest, will you give us a thumbs up or down?
Forrest, can you hear me? Okay.
Can everybody hear me
We
okay?
hear you just fine.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Okay. Good evening and welcome to our council meeting for November. We are appreciative to have all of you joining us here this evening. We just had a great session with our Economic Development Authority to talk about Radford's economy and where we're working and moving together to make things happen. But now we will begin our regular council meeting in full, and we always like to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. So I'll ask that our veterans come forward and please lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. And if you will please join us in a moment of reflection. Thank you all very much. At this time, we will open the floor for comments on public matters from citizens. Please come down to our podium, state your name, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes or less. Please also use the microphone so we can be sure to hear you and share your comments. So we will open the floor for citizen comments on public matters.
Should I leave my mask on?
You can take your mask off if
Okay.
you'd like to.
Yeah, my name is Nancy Kolb. I live at 207 10th Street in Radford, and I'm just here to say that the unimproved Harvey Street sale that is being considered, that I own two properties that are adjacent or joining to it, and I would prefer to definitely see that the whole property not be sold, that there be a public footpath remaining, because that's used by a lot of people walking between 10th Street and 9th Street. 10th Street is very busy, has no sidewalks whatsoever, so it gives a way for those of us on 10th to get down into the less trafficked portion of Radford to walk. And I know lots of people kind of all over Plan A that like to use that. And I own two properties. I own 301 10th Street and 207 10th Street. And so speaking on behalf of both of those, we really do not want to see all of the property sold.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other citizens who have a comment for the public this evening? Seeing no one coming up to the mic, we will go on and close that portion of the meeting. And as a council response to that, we will be taking up your concerns a little bit later in the evening under our old business section. And I think we have addressed some of that as part of our discussion as we move forward. Council members, you have minutes from our October 25th meeting. Were there any changes? Oh, wait, before we do that, we need to bring Forrest in officially to give him the opportunity to participate. Forrest, if you will state for the record where you are and why you are not present at the council meeting.
I'm in New Orleans, Louisiana on vacation with my wife.
Okay. Do we have a motion to allow Mr. Height to participate remotely?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, you're good, Forrest. We're ready to go. Council members, do you have any changes to the minutes, or is there a motion to approve as submitted?
I make a motion to approve them as submitted.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? We will move on to our next section, and we have something to celebrate here. This is actually wonderful. We've been recognized by the Virginia Department of Motor Vehicles with its Zero Award, which denotes localities with no traffic-related fatalities associated with buckling up, slowing down, and not driving impaired. And I'm going to ask our chief and a representative from the DMV to come forward. Please use the microphone, introduce yourself, and let us know who you are. The floor is yours.
Good evening. My name is Stephen Williams. I'm program manager with the DMV Highway Safety Office. I'm over the Roanoke area, and I'm here tonight to present the City of Radford and Radford Police Department with this Zero Fatality Award for 2020. This award is where we recognize any jurisdiction with 0 fatals for the entire calendar year. And it's something that the police department and the community should be very proud of, because it takes an effort on both sides to get to this. 2020, we had higher fatals in Virginia in 2020 than we did in 2019, 2018. And to do this was a feat. And I'd really like to say thank you. Thank you very much.
I think that's deserving of applause. Let's come forward. I'll come down with you, and if you all want to stand up, we can get a picture maybe. And let's get centered here so we can get Naomi and Jesse with us.
All right.
Okay.
I don't know.
Come this way a little more.
We'll let Emily guide us.
Congratulations. Thank you so much. So appreciative. We have more good news, and this is something that we've known about for a little while, but something that we have some recognition. Chief, I'm going to ask you to come back up and talk about the Virginia Association of Chiefs of Police with their Life-Saving Award.
Oh, wait, no, I thought I said no.
Okay, sorry.
That's going to be in January.
We're going to do that in January, so I will take that off of my agenda for this evening. Pardon me. Well, we still have great news, and Chief, you might as well come on back up. We are so fortunate in this community to have a wonderful partner in Cole Morgan Corporation. They do amazing things in our city and have for many, many decades. I'll share a little personal story. The precursor to Cole Morgan, Inland Motor, used to come to my elementary school when I was a kid and tell us about the cool little motors they made that were in everything. And it seemed so magical to me at the time. And so I'm thrilled that Cole Morgan has such a major presence. They do so much for our community, including this next piece where they have made a donation of $15,000 to support our K-9 unit. So here tonight is Dave Ebling, the president of Cole Morgan Corporation, and his team. Come on down with the chief, please. And Chief, I'm going to turn the floor over to you.
So yeah, like you said, Mayor, we have a wonderful community. You've heard, council's heard me say that multiple times. As you guys know, back in July, we were kind of faced with a little situation with 3 dogs retiring due to law changes. Got a call out of the blue from Cole Morgan. It's odd. And they're like, hey, we want to do something for the community. And I'm like, there's a lot of things you could do for the community. And when I talked to Jeff Lemons, he mentioned a dog. And I'm like, light bulb went on. And I'm like, absolutely, I'd love to get a dog. So, one thing happened, led to another, and here we are with this donation, and certainly helped us out in a time of need, and is going to provide a tool that we need to help keep our community safe. Another little interesting fact about this dog that we'll be getting in February is we had Cole Morgan assist with the name of this dog. Their employees and staff helped out with that, and the dog's name is going to be Servo.
Oh, I love that.
Which is the protect and serve and service, but also Servo is a brand of motors that is made at Cole Morgan. So K-9 Servo will be making his debut in February, March, April timeframe. So,
Wonderful. Well,
Yep.
again, I think that deserves a round of applause as well.
I'm gonna, like you said, President Dave Ebling's here. We have Nikki, who is supply chain manager at Cole Morgan, but I'd like to ask them to say a couple words
Please
as well.
do.
Mr. Mayor, Council, we're very proud to call Radford home. As you know, Cole Morgan's a global leader in servo motors. So, but again, we're on behalf of all of Cole Morgan. We're very pleased to make this donation to the Radford City Police Department, and to hopefully support in some way the excellent work that they do for public safety and for law enforcement. So, thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity to be here with you.
We are so thankful to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Nikki, do you have anything you'd like to add? Well, how about we come down and do another picture? Does that sound good?
I assume the chief of police is always here with good news, right?
That's absolutely, of course, never anything but. And
Whoever
We thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Again, wonderful news, and we are so fortunate to have such great members of this community, and we're so appreciative, so thank you all for everything. We do want to move on. This Thursday is Veterans Day, November the 11th, and Mrs. Foster has a proclamation for us to consider.
City of Radford Proclamation Veterans Day 2021. Whereas the citizens of the City of Radford and the United States of America live in freedom because of the contributions and personal sacrifices made by those who have served and by those now serving in the armed forces. And whereas the words of the first Veterans Day Proclamation, signed by President Eisenhower, still ring true, let us solemnly remember the sacrifices of all those who fought so valiantly on the seas, in the air, and on foreign shores to preserve our heritage of freedom, and let us reconsecrate ourselves to the task of promoting and enduring peace so that their efforts shall not be in vain. And whereas our nation has fought and continues to fight battles around the world for the ideals of liberty, freedom, and justice. And whereas Virginia is blessed to be home of more than 740,000 veterans and tens of thousands of military families, and the City of Radford has veterans from every branch of armed services. And whereas we remember with gratitude those men and women who have served in the military with distinction and valor as sailors, soldiers, airmen, and Marines. And whereas as we reflect upon the enormous contributions made to our city, the Commonwealth, and country by the sons and daughters who served bravely to defend the principles of which our nation was founded, we also pay tribute to a new generation of Virginians who have chosen to serve in the United States Armed Forces and remain committed to sustaining the legacy of unyielding patriotism. And whereas the City of Radford is incredibly proud and humbled to be the hometown of so many American heroes who serve as shining examples of honor, bravery, and service to our country. And whereas we will endeavor to always honor those contributions and sacrifices of the millions who have, over centuries, served in the military, as well as those presently serving both home and abroad. Whereas we are proud to recognize our country's and community's veterans and extend the appreciation to those who wear the uniforms of the United States Armed Forces and serve on the front lines, preserving freedom and liberty. Now, therefore, it be proclaimed by the Mayor of Radford City Council that all citizens observe November 11th, 2021 as Veterans Day and appreciate the sacrifices and contributions of our veterans who fought for peace and defend democracy abroad. I make a motion that we honor this proclamation and recognize Veterans Day.
So we have a motion to adopt the proclamation for Veterans Day. Do we have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. Would you like to present the award to our
Sure.
veterans? I will ask our veterans to please come forward. All three of you, come on down. We appreciate that. And Jenny, would you mind grabbing a picture of them? Thank you so much. That's right.
Okay, we're good.
Thank you all very much. And to all of our veterans, both present and those that are in the community, those that can't be with us, we say thank you. Thank you for your service. Thank you for the gifts you've given our country. We so appreciate everything that you've done for us. November is a busy month, and right after Thanksgiving is Small Business Saturday, and so I've asked that Ms. Huntington present our Small Business Saturday proclamation.
Whereas the City of Radford celebrates our local small businesses and the contributions they make to our local economy and community, and whereas the City of Radford is a vibrant community with a business sector that includes several locally owned small businesses, and whereas small businesses are a vital component of the Radford economy by creating quality jobs for our residents engaging philanthropic and civic concerns, helping to preserve key business corridors, and improving quality of life for our citizens. And whereas the City of Radford values local small businesses and celebrates the diversity of goods and services they provide and the contributions they make to our community. And whereas Radford supports our local businesses that create jobs, boost our local economy, and preserve our communities. And whereas a significant amount of commerce across the United States is conducted around the Thanksgiving holiday. And whereas advocacy groups, as well as public and private organizations across the country, have endorsed the Saturday after Thanksgiving as Small Business Saturday. And whereas residents of Radford are being asked to support local small businesses on Small Business Saturday, November 27th, 2021, and throughout the year as a way to boost the local economy and strengthen Radford's small business community. Now, therefore, the City Council of Radford, Virginia does hereby proclaim November 27th, 2021 as Small Business Saturday and urges the residents of our community and communities across the country to support small businesses and merchants on Small Business Saturday and throughout the year. Mr. Mayor, I offer this proclamation and ask that we adopt it.
We have a motion to adopt the Small Business Saturday proclamation. Do we have a second?
Second?
A motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. And I say every day should be Small Business Saturday in Radford, but definitely the Saturday after Thanksgiving, let's give our businesses as much support as we can and move forward. Moving to old business, we do need to consider the vacation of a portion of Harvey Street. It is a 60 by 150 section of Harvey Street between 9th and 10th Street. It's 0.206 acres, and it was never opened because of the steep slope on the southern end. Kevin Entrican has requested this, and he requested it back in September. At that time, we did have 3 objections to the vacation, and I know many of us have talked with residents regarding this. No utilities are impacted, but a 3-member board of viewers did review the property and has recommended that council consider vacation of 30 feet of the requested 60 feet, which would allow for the property owner at 309th Street to improve the property as he has requested, but also preserve open land for the adjacent property owners to be able to access their property as well. We received the report at the October 25th meeting, and action was tabled until this meeting to try to make sure we could get in touch with everyone. Before we go on, we do need to consider an ordinance for this, but council, is there any further discussion regarding this?
Yeah, Ms. Kolb, thank you for coming tonight. I wanted to just let you know a little bit about what went into my thought process for this before we address the ordinance. But I did have the opportunity to visit the property, and so I went out there, I looked at it. I spoke with a couple of neighboring property, well, one neighboring property owner. And then I also considered all of the objections that we had because, you know, we don't get vacation of right-of-ways too frequently, and it's even more infrequent that we get vacation requests that have some community, where we receive feedback. Frankly, it's a little bit unusual for us to have quite so many comments as we did, so I wanted to make sure that it was very thorough. And so I actually appreciated the suggestion that we vacate only 30 feet of the requested 60 feet because I thought that while we may not make everybody happy here, at least that was some form of compromise. And I thought that it was perhaps the best compromise that we could reach. So thank you for coming and sharing that concern. And it really did prompt me to do a little bit more digging so that I could make sure that I understood the situation.
Thank you. Ms. Foster?
I'm really just going to mirror those same comments. I live actually close by and ride my bike by there every day, and so I actually went there and kind of walked it. It's a good stretch of property. I could see the reason that you guys utilize that as a footpath, so I can acknowledge that that's important to your well-being and happiness in that neighborhood. But I also agree, I think it's a big enough swatch of property that we can allow that build and kind of come up with a compromise. Anytime, honestly, you know, we have property that's sitting just in, the city holds it, it's not always my favorite if someone can utilize it. And so what we found out with this property is there's actually 2 ways to utilize it. And so this way we can utilize it to its full potential. So although it's not exactly what probably either party wants, I guess there's a risk of making everyone terribly unhappy or happy enough that, that they're not too displeased with council. So hopefully this is a compromise where you can still maintain that quality of life and that, that throughway with also accommodating that extra little bill by the neighbor.
Mr. Height, do you have anything?
Yeah, thank you, Mary. I also went by the property. I thought it was important to take a look. I'd been by there multiple times, but never had viewed it with this issue in mind. So it was helpful to get fresh perspective. I think the challenge, obviously, before us has been trying to figure out, how to get property back on the tax book for the city, but also understanding there's been a strong neighborhood response, which I appreciate, and I think it's worth seriously considering. So ultimately, from council's perspective, our job is to do what's best for the city. Vacation adds a little income for the city, while leaving an alley alleviates the majority of citizen concern. So like my fellow council members have stated, the solution doesn't make everyone 100% happy, but I think the compromise makes sense.
Thank you. And I'll just say ditto to everything everybody said. These are always tricky because, again, our goal is to try to help people do things that they would like to do, but also to preserve quality of life for everybody involved if we can. So, having considered all of that, council members, the next step would be, do we have a motion to request the city attorney draft an ordinance for consideration of the vacation, which I believe we'd be able to have by December, correct? Yep. So we have a motion to request the city attorney draft an ordinance for consideration of the vacation.
Do we need to specify whether or not we prefer that to be for 30 or 60 feet at this time?
I think that's within we've already got that pretty much laid out.
Okay.
So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
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 Aye. Any dissent? Okay. And so just to explain to you, Ms. Kolb, thank you again for coming this evening. At this point, there will be an ordinance drafted that we will then consider the final time at our December meeting, which would then likely put it into effect if we were to agree to it at that point. Okay? Thank you again. And we do appreciate everyone who comes forward to share their concerns. And I hope that the work that we have done as a council and as a city demonstrates that we certainly listened to the things that were stated and tried to find solutions that could help the neighborhood continue to move forward. Thank you all very much.
The general guidance to the ordinance will be followed by the board of viewers, kind of, right?
Right.
If there's details.
Yep.
Just want to make sure.
Under new business, we have two appropriation ordinances to consider this evening. Appropriation Ordinance 1749.27. It is $21,322 from Citizens in Cole Morgan for the K-9 unit. We heard a little bit about that this evening. There's some additional along with that. Thank you to the City of Radford for stepping up. Because this revenue was not part of our original fiscal year 2022 budget, it does require appropriation. Do we have a motion to approve Appropriation Ordinance 1749.27, the amount of $21,322?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please respond by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Having heard 4 affirmative votes, we can dispense with a second reading if so desired. Do we have a motion to do so?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second to dispense with a second reading of Ordinance 1749.27. Any discussion? All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. We also have a grant from the Office of Emergency Medical Services to support hardware initiatives for the fire department. It's $9,903. It is Ordinance 1749.28, and it should help with handheld devices and laptop computers to improve efficiency in making fire and EMS reports. Council members, do you have any questions? Do we have a motion to consider to approve Ordinance 1749.28 in the amount of $9,903?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please respond by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Having heard 4 affirmative votes, we can dispense with a second reading if so desired. Do we have a motion to do so?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second to dispense with the second reading of Ordinance 1749.28 in the amount of $9,903. Any discussion? All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. David, what do you have for us this evening?
A couple of quick things. can't go anywhere in Radford right now. We've got so much development going on. We're getting utilities to different businesses and houses, things like that. So there are some periodic road closures, detours, things like that. So we ask for patience during the next little bit. Hopefully once we get over the next couple of months and get all these connections made, everything will be good. And all positive news for our community. Good news for economic development and business and housing for us. So we're very excited about all of that. A lot of big things coming up. Look at our calendar with Winterfest getting ready to start here. Thanksgiving is here. Wish everybody a happy holiday coming up. Thank you to our veterans that holiday as well, and appreciate their service. The last piece I did want to ask if Jeff could maybe just mention briefly the $21,000 you just appropriated. Of course, Cole Morgan, the generous contribution, $15,000 of that is making possible our K-9 unit, but I thought it was very special. The other part of this, I wanted Jeff to mention the remaining little over $5,000, how that came about, and our thank yous.
Thank you.
Yeah, so publicly, I just want to say thank you. We have a great community. They're so generous. They saw that we had a need, and we've had yard sales, bake sales, car washes, and just some really generous citizens of the city of Radford that came forward and donated all this money. Again, tonight we focused on the Cole Morgan donation, but we have had a lot of citizens, and I don't have the breakdown here, that have donated to this project. So publicly, I just wanted to say before council and everybody listening at home, thank you. It certainly has helped us out. So.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Jeff. And then
And thank you to everybody out there that has donated. We certainly do appreciate it. You go above and beyond, and we say thank you. David?
Lastly, just want to thank you all. Great work session last week, and we'll be advancing those projects that were kind of our top priorities, and get some reports and start getting some information out as we start solidifying those over the next couple of months.
Okay, thank you. Forrest, since you're online with us, I'm going to let you go first to share any thoughts that you have.
I won't keep you long. Obviously we've got a lot going on in the city right now. I'm not going to take this time to wax eloquent about that, but I would just say for citizens who are interested, keep an eye on my Facebook page, my official page. I'll try to have a few thoughts on there over the next couple of days and have that replace this section right now.
Thank you.
Good
Nan?
night, everyone.
Yes, I just have a couple of things. So first of all, Forrest and I had the chance to visit McHarg Elementary School last week, got a tour of all of the construction going on there. It's incredible to see everything that they're doing, and I'm just very, very proud of that project. I'm so pleased that we were able to make it happen, and I think we're doing really well by the kids in this community to make sure that they get the best education in the best, newest, beautiful school that we can give them. So it was very nice to see that. Another thing that I just wanted to ask about, David, it's always sidewalks, and I know they're not easy projects, but I was on a walk yesterday, and I was walking from 8th Street down Wadsworth, actually towards McHarg, and as I was pushing a stroller, I realized that there were no ramps on many of those cross streets on Wadsworth. And I just thought about, not only is it hard if you're navigating a stroller, but particularly if you are in a wheelchair or need some other form of assistance, it's a difficult way to navigate. So I'd ask that we keep that in mind for potential future projects in terms of sidewalks, just making sure that as many of them as possible are accessible, particularly on those main roads such as Wadsworth.
And just so you know, any sidewalk project we have now does have that new ramp, and I don't think we've got any coming up, but we will be looking at the areas around our schools, any places that you all have promoted as your bikeway, walkway, kind of your pedestrian corridors, looking at those to make sure that they're as easily accessible as possible. So thank you.
Great, thank you. Otherwise, I will just say happy Thanksgiving to everyone. I can't believe it's already time to be thinking about that, but I am incredibly grateful to be a part of this community and to be able to serve, and that's what I'm thinking about this Thanksgiving. Thank you.
Thank you. Jesse, what do you have?
I dedicate my moment of silence to Paul Cameron King, and also my very favorite veteran, my father. I share very openly. He was a Vietnam vet that committed suicide. He just never actually came all the way home from the war. So if you're lucky enough to have your veteran with you, please give them a big hug, and also their family, because the entire family serves the country in one way or the other. when you have a loved one in the military. So then moving on to something that I promised I would bring up to you guys. I know you're way excited. I had mentioned that I had a meeting with the Department of Social Services in regards to a home detention program. And I'm trying to figure out the best way to sum it up. But right now, if one of our youth gets in trouble, there's only a few options. So there's home confinement. The problem with home confinement is that requires a member of their staff to go out at 10 o'clock at night, maybe 2 o'clock in the morning. And if that youth is out, we have no idea where he or she is. So the other option, of course, is detention, which is never an ideal situation. And that we have one of our first youth on a home electronic monitoring system. So they can stay at home, they're monitored, they can go to school. If they decide to skip town, we can usually locate them quite readily. So, of course, my first question is, what does this mean? What is the cost of this program? So it's approximately $13 a day, which is a lot cheaper than confinement, and it's a $75 setup fee. Usually a judge can, before they have to have another meeting and reconvene with the judge, it can be about 60 days at the maximum. So with that, to give you an example, we usually give $900 to them for such programs. It also has to cover third millennial classes, which is about $60 each. So we have 6 kids that have done those kind of remediation classes. But the point is, in 4 months, now that we have one on the home detention, we've already used our budget. So we're past the $900 already. I can break it down, but you have the $75 setup fee, $13 a day for 60 days is about $780, so that's $855. And then if you add the millennial class, it's $915 for this one individual, which is still cheaper than 60 days of detention, and they are getting very good outcomes. So again, I know, what are they asking? We give $900. What are they asking in addition? So they think $1,000 to $1,200 would at least get them where they need to be right now, because they do have a couple students or a couple of youth that they think very well a judge might suggest that they go to this program. If we don't add extra money to it, then basically we're saying to the judges that we have tools available, but we're just not going to make them available. So they're asking right now, since they're kind of rolling it out and it's fairly new, the opportunity to serve at least one more youth at $1,000.
Well, let me ask this. Is this something we could put on the agenda for the December meeting and have Vicki come speak to us about it?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I know that
do that.
she's very passionate about this program, and I'm sure they'd like to give you a little more detail. But I promised that I would kind of collect a little bit of information up front. So that's kind of what we're looking at.
Okay. All right. Anything else?
That's it for me.
Thank you very much. Happy Veterans Day. Thank you to all of our veterans for their service and their families for all the sacrifice. I want to use Veterans Day for just a minute to say thank you to Mrs. Foster and her efforts to get the American Legion Hall worked on. This goes back several years, and we are so appreciative of that. And gosh, I don't know what we would have done if you hadn't been able to do what you did to make it happen. And I understand in the next few weeks, we may start to see some progress on that.
Yep.
So thank you so much for that. On the sidewalks, I actually think we need to probably have some sessions about walkability in the city, because it's not just the cutouts and the ramps on some sidewalks. There are some areas that don't have contiguous sidewalks. I've had some residents approach me. Now, here's the tricky part, and for everybody that might be listening and those here, it's not always easy to just put a sidewalk somewhere. And one of the reasons the sidewalks may not have some of the things on them is they're grandfathered in under the ADA, and the second you start to work on them, they have to comply with the entire piece, which may mean width, which may mean grade. There's a whole lot with that. But I do think talking about walkability and looking for where we have deficiencies to at least come up with some planning for that is not a bad idea, because that's one of our goals, is to make sure Radford's a very walkable community. And there may be places where we can do bikeway, walkway as an alternative to some of the sidewalks, which then can be done a little bit differently than we do the sidewalks. But that's something for us to think about. And I have had multiple people come to me to say they walk to school or they walk to the store and they don't have a safe path without being in the street. So that may be something December, January we can at least talk about if that's okay. I know there's not an easy answer because it's not as simple as just do this. You know, we did.
You mentioned infrastructure earlier, maybe.
Infrastructure's
Yes.
coming, you know, hopefully some ARP money can be used. There's a lot of things we can potentially do, and I think we need to get our ducks in a row on that anyway. But a perfect example, the 4 blocks of sidewalk we did on Far West End was about $160,000, $180,000. And that, while it's a great investment, that just shows the magnitude when we start talking about trying to start when we don't even have a sidewalk or walkway there. I do want to acknowledge that Mr. Barres has resigned and has left us. He's accepted a job in Florida, and we wish him very well in his new career. As such, council will need to address the vacancy. So we will have more formal information coming out about this, but in a nutshell, we are looking to have a special election. It likely will take place with our next councilmanic election, which will be November 8th, 2022. Council, the 4 of us who remain, will have to have discussions on what process we will use to appoint an interim replacement that would serve from likely the end of November through the election and the qualification of a new candidate. Now, a couple of things that I did want to add to that. When folks are running for office next year, it's a little more complicated. It's not that you run to replace the seat. You can, but the reality is whoever the top 2 vote getters are in next fall's election will fill the empty council seats or the available council seats that are coming up, and then whoever comes in third will fill the remainder of the term. So that's a little bit about what we're going to be doing. We are going to have several meetings over the next few weeks as a council where we'll be discussing personnel matters, and then we will come up with a solution to be able to move forward as a council with a full slate. So I hope that's helpful in addressing the subject matter. We'll try to get a formal message out from our council to explain the entire thing and help you understand where we are with everything. I think if you have a question about the process or a question about a vacancy on council, please feel free to contact any of your council members and we can talk with you about that. Now, having said that, we do need to move into closed session to consider a couple of items. I'd like to make a motion that we convene a closed meeting for the purpose of discussion, consideration, or interviews of prospective candidates for employment, assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, demotion, salaries, disciplining, or resignation of specific public officers, appointees, or employees of any public body, and evaluation of performance of departments under Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711A1, and also for discussion or consideration of the acquisition of real property for a public purpose or the disposition of publicly held real property where discussion in an open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the public body under Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711A3. So I have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. We will move into closed session and we will reconvene in just a few minutes. So we will ask those that are